Madam President.
The senator from California.
Madam President, it's my understanding that this is an appropriate time for me, as chairman of the Intelligence Committee, to speak on the nomination of John Brennan for director of the CIA.
Senator is recognized.
Thank you very much. Madam President, as a kind of predicate to this nomination, we have heard a 13-hour filibuster from senators who desire an answer to the question that was proffered by Senator Paul. I have that answer. It's dated March 7th. It's from the Attorney General and signed by Eric Holder. It's to Rand Paul, and this is what it says. It has come to my attention that you have asked an additional question. Quote, does the President have the authority to use a weaponized drone to kill an American not engaged in combat on American soil? The answer to that question is no. I would ask that that letter be placed in the record.
Without objection.
So hopefully the question of continuing this will be vitiated and we will be able to proceed with a vote. It's my understanding that I have a half hour on behalf of the majority of the Intelligence Committee to make a statement in support of Mr. Brennan. Thank you very much. As you know, Mr. Brennan's nomination was reported out of the Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday by a strong bipartisan vote of 12-3. And I look forward to an equally strong vote by the Senate later today. Let me begin with his qualifications, which are impressive and unquestioned. John Brennan began his career as an intelligence officer with the CIA in 1980. He worked as a CIA officer for 25 years in a variety of capacities, including as an analyst in the Office of Near Eastern and South Asian Analysis, and as the top analyst in the CIA Counterterrorism Center from 1990 to 1992, both areas that remain very much a focus of the CIA today. That's good. He was the daily intelligence briefer at the White House and served as George Tenet's executive assistant. Despite his background as an analyst, Mr. Brennan was selected to serve as a chief of station, a post generally filled by a CIA operations officer. He served in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, one of the most important and complex assignments, and then returned to Washington as then DCI Tenet's chief of staff and the deputy executive director of the CIA. Mr. Brennan then served as the head of the Terrorist Threat Integration Center, the predecessor organization to the National Counterterrorism Center, where he also served as the interim director. After a short stint in the private sector, he returned to be President Obama's top counterterrorism and homeland security advisor. In that capacity, he's been involved in handling every major national and homeland security issue we have faced since 2009. He's been involved in counterterrorism successes, including this administration's efforts to bring Osama bin Laden to justice, and at least 105 arrests of terrorist operatives and supporters in the United States since 2009. He has also helped implement the lessons learned from Umar Farouk Abdulmuttalib's attempted bombing in a jet over Detroit, the loss of CIA personnel in Khost, Afghanistan, and the attacks in Benghazi, Libya. So he is qualified. For the past 4 years, Mr. Brennan has been among the president's closest advisors. As director of the CIA, he's going to lead this nation's largest intelligence agency and will continue to provide information and advice on intelligence matters to the president, his national security team, and this Congress. Throughout the past 3 decades, Mr. Brennan has observed every aspect of intelligence, from analysis to collection to covert action, from inside government and the private sector, and from both the intelligence and policy sides. I actually don't believe that there's anyone that's more qualified to take over the CIA than John Brennan. So he cannot be denied, in my view, on the basis of qualification. And I think even those who oppose his nomination recognize that there is no question but that he is well qualified. From the time he walks into the CIA, he will be ready to go, up to speed on the numerous threats and challenges this country faces all over the globe. Madam President, let me speak for a moment why that's important and why it's so important that we move to confirm John Brennan. The director of the CIA leads the most diverse and clandestine intelligence agency, the only agency to conduct covert action, the largest all-source analytic workforce, and he sits in the principal committee meetings where the most sensitive national security decisions are made. The past two CIA directors, both Mr. Panetta and General Petraeus, have played significant roles in keeping the Senate and House Intelligence Committees informed of sensitive operations. They have provided an independent assessment of hotspots and strategic threats around the world. John Brennan will do the same. By its nature, the CIA is among the parts of our government that receive the least oversight. This is important. Its activities are largely shielded from the view of the press, the public, the Government Accountability Office, and indeed most members of Congress. The director of the CIA must be both unimpeachable in his, or hopefully one day her, integrity, while guiding a workforce of people who operate in the shadows for the benefit of our nation. He must manage an independent and creative workforce, build and mature relationships with foreign spy chiefs, and lead teams of scientists, technicians, lawyers, analysts, and operatives who are involved in clandestine work. In short, the CIA is capable of the very best of America, and catastrophically at times, it is capable of great mistakes. It follows that the position of CIA director requires an uncommon nominee, and that position shouldn't remain vacant for long. For the past 5 months, the deputy director, Michael Morrell, has served as the acting director. Mr. Morrell, like John Brennan, is a career CIA officer and a very gifted one. But as I discussed with him last Friday, he cannot single-handedly attend the White House principals meetings, the deputies meetings, direct the agency, meet with liaison partners, testify before Congress, implement sequestration, and do everything else the director and deputy director must jointly do. John Brennan and Michael Morrell will be a great team in leading the CIA. I believe they really compensate for one another. Michael Morrell has these skills in analysis, and John Brennan has skills that make him, I think, a very strong and, yes, even tough leader. We face continuing attack from terrorists. There's no question about that. I see the reports every day. Our posts overseas remain at risk, and terrorists still seek to attack us at home. As a matter of fact, there have been over 100 arrests in the last 4 years of attacks that have been interrupted, the planning of which has been interrupted by the FBI in this country. There is a massive and still growing humanitarian disaster underway in Syria, with no end in sight and the prospect of an increasingly desperate regime with nothing to lose. Instability is going to continue to fester across North Africa, from Mali to Algeria to Libya and beyond, breeding and harboring a new generation of extremists. The North Korean regime is threatening to disavow the 1953 ceasefire with the South, and it has the nuclear and missile capability to cause massive destruction and instability. We just had an update on that on Tuesday. Iran's nuclear program continues to grow, and its Revolutionary Guard and Hezbollah proxy are growing bolder and more capable. China's foreign policy and military might are increasing. According to well-sourced, recent, unclassified reports, its cyber operations are bleeding our private sector dry. The CIA has a role to play in all of these areas, as well as maintaining and expanding its global coverage. This is going to require prioritizing resources and producing better results from a very skilled CIA workforce. So the CIA director position must be filled. 5 months is too long to leave it vacant. And John Brennan, I believe, and 12 members of our committee believe, is the right person to fill it. Some have questioned whether we can depend on John Brennan to be straight with the committee. I believe he will be, and that he will be someone with whom we can build a strong and trusting relationship. And let me just say one thing, that's important. It is very important that the intelligence committees of both of these houses have that relationship with the director of the CIA, so that with a bond of trust, there can be a sharing of information which enables our oversight to be more complete. Without that, our oversight is not complete, and it certainly is not rigorous. In nominating John Brennan, President Obama spoke of his, quote, commitment to the values that define us as Americans, end quote. DNI Clapper, in a letter of support to the committee, noted John's, quote, impeccable integrity, end quote, and that his dedication to country is second to none. He has been called the administration's conscience, and I believe he will be a straight shooter, which is extraordinarily important to me. I want the truth, whether it's good or bad. I want the truth, and I believe every member of my committee feels the same way. Mr. Brennan has been straightforward with the committee throughout the confirmation process. He has pledged to be open with us if confirmed, and we take him up on that pledge. In his opening statement, the committee's public confirmation hearing, Mr. Brennan said that if confirmed, and it's a quote, I would endeavor to keep this committee fully and currently informed, not only because it's required by law, but because you can neither perform your oversight function nor support the mission of the CIA if you are kept in the dark, end quote. He acknowledged that the trust deficit has at times existed between the Intelligence Committee and the CIA, and pledged to make it his goal to strengthen the trust between our institutions. I really look forward to giving him that opportunity, and be sure I will hold him to these words. And I recognize that building a relationship and trust requires two willing partners. We are willing. I believe he will be willing. We will find out. In fact, Madam President, there is a broader issue here on the interaction between the executive branch and the Congress on intelligence matters. And it goes well beyond Mr. Brennan, and I want to speak about it. I have served on the Intelligence Committee for more than 12 years. This is actually a lot more unusual than it sounds. From the committee's establishment in 1976 to the end of 2004, there were term limits on committee membership. So senators rotated off the committee just when they had served for long enough to really understand what the intelligence community is doing, and most importantly, how it operates. Now, Senators Rockefeller, Wyden, Mikulski, and I have all served on the committee for more than a decade. And Senators Chambliss and Burr are near that total, and both served on the House committee before coming to the Senate. So you have some veterans on that committee who have watched and listened We spend a minimum of 2 hours in a committee meeting twice a week, and often longer. We cannot take home notes. Notes go in the safe. We cannot take home classified information. So it means a lot of reading wherever you can get the time to either go to a SCIF or in some way, shape, or form find a way to read the classified information, which runs daily like this. We see everything except for the president's PDB. That's the president's daily brief. So all of the other information from all of the agencies stream through this committee. And it's really vital that we read it, because that's where we find out where the threats are. We have been able to truly understand the relationship between the Intelligence Committee and the intelligence community, and the importance of having the committee kept fully and currently informed of intelligence matters. And now that's not our wish, that's a requirement of the National Security Act. We have seen what happens when this is not the case, when the committee doesn't have access to and full knowledge of intelligence, like with Iraq weapons of mass destruction before the war, or with the CIA's detention and interrogation program through the past administration. By contrast, when we are briefed, we can provide input and advice. We can work to put an end to ill-advised plans, and we can give the intelligence community a measure of support, and we can defend its actions. I can tell you, Madam President, that there is a very strong feeling on both sides of our aisle that the committee is not getting the information it needs to conduct all oversight matters in the manner in which we should. There is the matter of what's called OLC, Office of Legal Counsel Opinions, concerning the targeted killing of Americans. The committee needs to understand the legal underpinnings of not only this program, but of all clandestine programs, of all covert action, so we can assure that the actions of the intelligence community operate according to law. Absent these opinions, we cannot conduct oversight that's as robust as it really should be. So, during the confirmation process, we were able to reach an agreement with the administration to receive these opinions, with staff access and without restriction on notes. And I want to say thank you. I think increasingly the administration understands this problem. It is not a diminishing one, it is a growing one, and it is spreading through this House, and I would suspect the other House as well. It has to be this way. We have to know the legal basis for very serious actions taken in a secretive way by the intelligence community. Therefore, we can defend it. If we don't see this, we don't really know. I want to address a couple of other concerns, mainly based on hypothetical examples. And that, of course, is the senator from Kentucky. He mentioned, and I began with this, that what we're talking about is eating dinner in your house, you're eating in a cafe, or you're walking down the road, and a drone strike can occur. It's not about people involved in combat. It's about people who they think might be. This will never happen in the United States of America. This is not permitted in the United States of America. The Attorney General, by his letter, has said just that. It will not happen. I hope this puts this to an end. It's one thing in an isolated country where we have isolated mountains and valleys, and where we know terrorists terrorist leaders targeted carefully by our government may well be. And these leaders have taken American lives. That's one thing. That's the battle zone. The United States of America is a different place. We have access to law, we have access to police, we have access to FBI, we have access to warrants, we have access to arrest, we have access to be able to ferret out the individuals. Drones will never be used in the United States of America. None of I have anything to do with it. And and yesterday, Senator Cruz followed up on Senator Paul's concerns, asking Attorney General Holder if an American eating at a cafe, this is in Judiciary Committee where I was present, who doesn't pose an imminent threat could be killed by a drone. I don't think the Attorney General, at the time he heard the question, recognized the simplicity of the facts presented by the hypothetical. But when he did, he said no. My view is that the Attorney General's letter to Senator Paul is right, and that the only case in which the use of lethal force against Americans in the United States could be complicated or could be constitutional would be an extraordinary circumstance, such as the attack on Pearl Harbor or the terrorist attacks on September 11th, where 3 big commercial airliners were hijacked and driven into 3 large buildings. Another issue where the committee has sought documents is related to the Benghazi terrorist attacks. I noticed that the vice chairman is on the floor. He and I have worked to bring the additional documents that his side wanted on the Benghazi attacks. We have an absolute commitment to the administration that all those documents, if they haven't already been forthcoming, and it's my understanding from the senator that most have been forthcoming, that the remaining ones will be as well. So my view is that the committee has received the information we need in order to render a judgment about what happened in Benghazi before the attacks of last September 11 and 12, during, after, and before. And I think my view, quite simply stated, is that there was intelligence that said that this mission, not a consulate, it did not have Marines, it had no consular materials, but that this mission could well be a site of attack. Members have asked legitimate questions within our jurisdictional lane about Benghazi, and they deserve answers to their questions. So many senators on both sides of the aisle in the committee see the need for a better relationship and a better appreciation of what we need in order to do our work. It was pointed out recently that we are really different from other congressional bodies that do oversight. Our efforts aren't supplemented by the press or by GAO or by nonprofit and advocacy groups in the same way they are in other committees of the Congress. The intelligence committees in the House and the Senate need to get information from the executive branch in order to exercise robust oversight. I have spoken directly to the President's Chief of Staff, the National Security Advisor, and the Director of National Intelligence about this. And I believe they are really coming to understand the issue. I've been told that they have an open view, that they are discussing increased transparency with us at the present time. I strongly believe that John Brennan will be part of the solution and that he will be someone with whom we can work closely. He is well qualified, his leadership and management are sorely needed, and he has strong bipartisan support in the committee. I urge a yes vote. I would like to yield the floor to the distinguished vice chairman from Georgia, with whom it has really been a great pleasure for me to work. We haven't disagreed on a lot. We've disagreed on a few things, but I just want you to know that I want to continue the relationship that we have. We need to put together another authorizing bill, but we've discussed information sharing. I think we want to proceed by regular order, and I look forward to working with you, Mr. Vice Chairman, in that regard, and I thank you.